We live in an age that worships speed. Everything around us moves faster than the human spirit was ever meant to move. We want instant manifestation, immediate success, answers on demand. We're told that if something doesn't happen right now, it's a failure, or that we've somehow fallen behind in the race of life. But the soul does not race. The soul unfolds. And that unfolding happens according to a rhythm far older than time. The rhythm of divine intelligence, the silent architecture of the universe that knows when, where, and how everything must appear. When you learn to look beyond the surface of events, you begin to see that every apparent delay hides a sacred synchronization. The universe is never withholding your blessings. It's aligning the infinite factors that make your destiny whole. The people you must meet, the lessons you must master, the emotional readiness you must develop. All of these are parts of a larger equation. The divine plan doesn't respond to impatience, it responds to resonance. And when your energy harmonizes with what you've asked for, the external world begins to rearrange itself effortlessly, as if by cosmic choreography. It's not that your desires are ignored, it's that the universe is wise enough not to deliver them prematurely. Sometimes a delay is protection, sometimes it's refinement. Sometimes it's the space in which you grow strong enough to receive what you once could only dream of. When you're guided by the illusion of linear time, life appears fragmented, as though things are happening to you in random order. But from a higher view, you can see how every disappointment, every unexpected turn, every slow chapter was an essential thread in your awakening. Imagine your life as a constellation. When you're in the middle of it, all you see are isolated stars, separate, scattered, incomprehensible. You question why certain people entered and left, why opportunities appeared only to vanish, why moments of silence stretched endlessly. But once time passes and perspective deepens, the pattern reveals itself. You see that the stars were never scattered. They were arranged in precise alignment. The heartbreaks that once felt meaningless suddenly appear as gateways to deeper understanding. The pauses that frustrated you were actually pauses for recalibration. The losses that broke you down were shaping you into the person who could finally recognize real abundance. Divine timing isn't passive waiting, it's active preparation. It's the quiet alchemy happening beneath the surface while your conscious mind grows restless. When you think nothing is happening, everything is happening. The invisible layers of reality are shifting to make room for your next chapter. The right circumstances are being magnetized, the right souls are being drawn closer, the right frequencies are converging, but it all must happen in precise order. One misaligned step, one premature arrival, and the entire harmony could collapse. That is why the universe teaches patience through uncertainty. Because when you cannot yet see the pattern, you must learn to trust the weaver. And there's another truth hidden here. What feels like delay is often divine editing. The universe will remove what isn't aligned, even when you think you need it. It will close doors that lead nowhere, end connections that no longer match your frequency, and dissolve structures that were built on illusion. That dismantling can feel cruel to the human mind, but it's mercy from the higher self. The delay between what you want and what's arriving isn't punishment, it's precision. Each moment is being sculpted for your highest timeline. Look back at your past. How many things once seemed like detours that later revealed themselves as perfect redirections? The job you didn't get that led you to your purpose. The person who left that made space for someone real. The dream that failed that pushed you towards something greater. Divine timing is that unseen hand rearranging your reality with wisdom your mind cannot yet comprehend. It's not that the universe forgot you. It's that it's organizing what's meant for you so that when it arrives, it fits flawlessly. When you align with that understanding, your relationship with time changes. You stop measuring your progress by speed and start measuring it by depth. You realize that your value doesn't diminish because something takes longer. You begin to see that your journey is not a delay, it's a divine sequence. Every chapter, even the quiet ones, has its own vibration, its own necessity. Some seasons are meant for expansion, others for stillness. Some are meant for action, others for faith. Together they form the full rhythm of creation. There is a sacred geometry to existence, an intelligent pattern that connects all things. What you perceive as stillness is the moment when all the pieces are aligning. The universe does not rush because rushing creates distortion. Just as a seed must rest in the dark before it blooms, your manifestations also require gestation. The soil of your soul must be prepared. The conditions around you must be harmonized. The energy you emit must become stable enough to hold what you desire. That is why the divine waits, not because it doubts your dream, but because it honors its magnitude. So when you find yourself in a season of delay, remember this. Your life is not stagnant, it's synchronizing. What seems motionless on the surface is alive beneath, like the earth in winter, quietly preparing for spring. The more you trust this hidden order, the more miracles you begin to see. Synchronicities appear. People arrive at the perfect moment. The timing of things starts to feel almost supernatural, because it is. The universe speaks through timing. It communicates through the elegance of unfolding events that meet you precisely when you're ready to understand them. Trusting that rhythm is an act of spiritual maturity. It's how the human self surrenders to the divine intelligence that governs all creation. You don't need to know how it's all going to happen. You only need to remain aligned, receptive, and awake. When you do, you realize that what's meant for you isn't ahead or behind. It's simply in motion, orbiting toward you at the exact frequency you emit. And one day, you'll look back and see that nothing was ever late. Nothing was ever wasted. Every silence, every detour, every pause was precisely the timing your destiny required. The delays were never the absence of movement. They were the formation of meaning. The universe was never testing your patience. It was teaching you how to trust its perfection. One of the deepest struggles of the human spirit is the need to control, to make things happen according to our own timetable, our own expectations, our own definition of success. The mind believes that safety lies in certainty, that fulfillment comes from control. We're taught from childhood to chase, to strive, to compete, to never stop moving. We think if we plan hard enough, push strong enough, and force our will upon reality, we can bend the universe to our design. And sometimes, for a brief moment, it even seems to work. But what we call control is often just resistance dressed in confidence. There's a hidden exhaustion that comes from trying to manage the timing of the universe. You can feel it, the subtle tension in your chest, the tightness behind your ambitions, the way anxiety creeps in when things don't move as quickly as you expect. Beneath it all is the silent fear that if you stop controlling, everything will collapse. Yet the truth is far more mystical. When you let go of control, life begins to self-organize with intelligence far greater than your mind could ever orchestrate. We forget that the same consciousness that makes the stars revolve and the seasons change is the same intelligence guiding our personal lives. The ego wants to believe it's the master of destiny, but it's only a character inside a much vaster story. The higher self, the divine awareness within you, is the author. And that author doesn't write in straight lines. It writes in spirals, in symbols, in synchronicities, weaving together choices, emotions, and encounters in ways that only make sense in hindsight. You've probably experienced this paradox. When you chase something too hard, it slips further away. When you stop chasing and start allowing, it comes to you naturally, sometimes effortlessly. That's not coincidence, it's energetic law. What you pursue from desperation broadcasts lack. What you align with from peace magnetizes abundance. The law of attraction, in its purest form, isn't about demanding reality to obey you. It's about matching the vibration of what you desire so completely that the universe recognizes you as one with it. Control is a function of fear. It arises when we don't trust the unseen process unfolding on our behalf. We cling to plans, deadlines, and outcomes because surrender feels like vulnerability. But in truth, surrender is not weakness. It's participation in the greater intelligence of existence. To surrender to the divine flow doesn't mean abandoning effort. It means aligning your effort with intuition. It's not about doing nothing. It's about doing only what is yours to do and letting the universe handle the orchestration. There comes a point on the spiritual path when you realize that forcing and flowing are two very different energies. Forcing drains you. Flowing renews you. Forcing tries to impose timing, flowing listens for it. When you act from control, you battle the current of life. When you act from trust, you move with it, and things that once felt impossible begin to fall into place with uncanny grace. It's the moment you stop shouting at the river and start floating with it, realizing the current has always known the way home. In those moments when life seems unresponsive, when manifestation feels delayed, the temptation to control grows strongest. But that's exactly when the lesson of trust deepens. The universe will often withhold what you desire until you learn to release your attachment to it. It's not cruelty, it's calibration. It's teaching you that joy cannot depend on outcome, that peace cannot depend on control. The more you try to bend reality to your will, the more it resists. The moment you release it with genuine faith, the resistance dissolves, and the energy you once blocked can finally reach you. The ego fears surrender because it believes surrender means loss. But the soul knows that surrender is the beginning of alignment. When you let go, you don't lose power, you return to it. You reconnect to the source that moves through all things. You become a channel instead of a controller, a participant instead of a prisoner of your own plans. And ironically, that's when manifestation becomes natural. The phone call arrives, the opportunity appears, the relationship shifts. Life responds to your energy the way a mirror reflects your face, not by command, but by resonance. Every mystical teaching in history points to this same truth. To command reality, you must stop trying to control it. To master creation, you must first master surrender. This isn't about passivity, it's about partnership. You act, you intend, you visualize, but then you release. You stop gripping outcomes and allow the invisible intelligence of the universe to arrange the details. You trust that what's meant for you will reach you through the path of least resistance, and that if something doesn't manifest, it's because something better is still forming in the unseen. Think of all the times you tried to force something that didn't fit: the job, the relationship, the plan. At the time, it felt like failure. But looking back, can you see how that resistance protected you from something misaligned? How that failure redirected you towards something that eventually felt natural, right, almost destined? That's divine flow at work, the correction beneath the chaos. What appears as disruption to the ego is guidance from the soul. The delays, the rejections, the unanswered prayers, they're all forms of protection disguised as disappointment. Control gives you the illusion of safety, but robs you of magic. Surrender feels uncertain at first, but it reconnects you to the sacred rhythm of life. When you trust the timing of the universe, you start to see miracles not as random luck, but as the natural consequence of harmony. You become attuned to the deeper current beneath appearances. You begin to notice how effortlessly reality rearranges itself when you stop interfering with its intelligence. Life ceases to be a project and becomes a dance, a mysterious, exquisite dance between your will and divine order. The paradox of control is this: the more you grip, the more you lose. The more you release, the more power flows through you. Because control isolates you from the flow of consciousness, while surrender returns you to it. It is not the surrender of action, it is the surrender of tension, the release of resistance, the quiet knowing that you are co-creating with something vast and benevolent. When you begin to trust this, your anxiety fades, your intuition strengthens, and your manifestations accelerate, not because you did more, but because you finally stopped fighting the rhythm of the universe. True manifestation is not about commanding the cosmos, it's about harmonizing with it. And when you do, you discover something extraordinary. The universe was never against you. It was always aligning for you, waiting for you to release your grip and flow in sync with its design. You realize that your task was never to control time. It was to become timeless, to let divine timing express itself through you, not against you. And in that surrender, you finally taste the freedom your ego has been chasing all along. The peace that comes when you no longer demand the future to obey your schedule, but allow it to unfold as it always wanted to. Perfectly. There comes a moment on the spiritual path when you begin to suspect that the delays in your life are not accidents. You start to sense that behind the quiet stretches of waiting, behind the doors that remain closed no matter how hard you knock, there is something deliberate. A sacred intelligence that knows exactly what it's doing. It's as though life has been calibrating itself, rearranging unseen coordinates, preparing a sequence so intricate that you could never comprehend it with your rational mind. This is the mystery of divine timing, the invisible precision that governs the unfolding of your destiny. We are conditioned to believe that delay equals denial. The human mind, obsessed with progress and productivity, cannot fathom that waiting could be purposeful. But the soul operates differently. The soul understands that manifestation isn't simply about getting what you want. It's about becoming the version of yourself who can hold it, nurture it, and not destroy it once it arrives. That's why the universe so often pauses the delivery. It's not saying no, it's saying not yet. Not until your energy, your thoughts, and your emotional body are harmonized with the vibration of what you're asking for. Everything in creation operates through frequency. Your desires, your thoughts, your relationships, all are energetic patterns that must resonate with one another before they can merge. When something you've been longing for doesn't arrive, it isn't because you're unlucky or forgotten. It's because the frequencies don't yet match. The universe will not bring you what you're not ready to sustain. It will not deliver abundance to a consciousness still shaped by scarcity. Nor will it offer deep love to a heart that hasn't yet learned how to receive without fear. That's the sacred intelligence within delay. It is an act of mercy, a cosmic refinement process, ensuring that what you manifest won't collapse under the weight of your unreadiness. Every delay is a spiritual mirror reflecting where alignment is still forming within you. It's an invitation to slow down and listen, to ask what part of you hasn't yet become coherent with what you desire. Think of it this way. Manifestation is not about pulling something external toward you. It's about tuning yourself so completely to the vibration of what you seek that the universe has no choice but to meet you there. When the resonance is exact, reality bends to meet your inner frequency. And that's why divine timing is not random. It's the moment when internal readiness meets external opportunity. Until then, the universe continues to shape you quietly and intelligently through the rhythm of waiting. The human ego hates this. It wants immediate results. It interprets silence as rejection. But silence is often sacred incubation. The universe speaks in symbols, synchronicities, and delays. It whispers through what doesn't happen just as much as through what does. When nothing seems to move, it's often because your soul is in the middle of a profound adjustment, releasing old patterns, healing hidden wounds, or learning the kind of patience that can hold true power without collapsing into fear. The space between desire and fulfillment is not emptiness, it's alchemy. Something is being rearranged within you. The divine intelligence is shaping your energy field, rewriting subconscious codes, dissolving attachments, refining your vibration. You might not see it, but that invisible transformation is what allows visible reality to change. The universe cannot give you what contradicts your current vibration, it can only reflect it. So when you change, even subtly, your reality begins to reorganize itself accordingly. That's why patience is not passive. Waiting with awareness is an act of co-creation. It's in those unseen intervals that the deepest inner work occurs. When you stop fighting the delay, you make space for it to teach you. You begin to perceive its wisdom, the way it humbles you, stabilizes you, deepens your faith. Every spiritual tradition at its core speaks about this invisible preparation. The mystics called it the dark night of the soul. Others call it the hallway between doors. Whatever the name, the essence is the same. It is the moment when divine intelligence pauses external motion to complete internal alignment. Look at your life closely, and you'll notice how the timing of events was never random. Perhaps you met the right person only after you healed from the last one. Perhaps your breakthrough came after you stopped forcing and surrendered. You couldn't have known it then, but every delay was reconfiguring your path in exact synchronization with your evolution. The missed opportunity, the waiting period, the months of silence, they were all ingredients in your unfolding. The cosmic clock never ticks too early or too late. It ticks to the rhythm of your readiness. Sometimes what you think is stagnation is actually divine acceleration that you can't yet perceive. Life doesn't move in straight lines. It spirals, folds, expands, and contracts, like breath. You exhale to release what no longer serves, and you inhale to receive what's next. The delays are those sacred exhalations, moments of letting go, clearing space for the next creation. They are not voids but transitions between frequencies. You cannot rush that shift. It happens organically, like dawn following night. To trust this is to live with spiritual maturity. It's to realize that you don't attract what you demand, you attract what you become. When you embody peace instead of impatience, gratitude instead of need, faith instead of doubt, the universe mirrors it back instantly. What once seemed distant begins to draw near, not through struggle, but through magnetism. That's the true essence of divine timing, not the external clock of human schedules, but the inner synchronization of energy and destiny. So the next time you feel stuck or delayed, remember, you are not waiting for life to start. Life is waiting for you to align. The universe doesn't withhold what's yours, it waits until you're tuned to the right frequency to receive it without distortion. The delay isn't a pause in creation, it is creation unfolding quietly, refining you into resonance. And when the alignment is complete, when your soul vibrates in perfect harmony with your desire, it arrives seamlessly, naturally, inevitably. When that moment comes, you will look back and realize the timing was never off. The waiting wasn't wasted, the stillness wasn't empty. It was all sacred calibration, the slow, deliberate intelligence of a universe that knows precisely when to open the next door. And the beauty is, once you've tasted that truth, you'll never resent delay again. You'll recognize it for what it really is, the loving precision of the cosmos, ensuring that what's meant for you arrives not a moment too soon, and not a moment too late, but in perfect harmony with who you have become. There are chapters in life when the world goes silent, when prayers seem to echo back unanswered, when the things and people you thought would stay begin to fade. These are the moments that test your spirit in ways no teaching can prepare you for. The mind searches for logic, the heart pleads for relief, and the soul whispers the one truth that both frightens and comforts you. This, too, is sacred. The waiting season is not a punishment. It is a rite of passage written into the soul's curriculum. When you are in it, it feels endless. You wake up each morning hoping for movement, for a sign, for any indication that the universe still remembers you. Yet the days blur into stillness. Plans dissolve. The people you leaned on grow quiet. The future feels suspended, like a film paused between scenes. In that silence, fear begins to speak. The fear that you've fallen behind, that your destiny has forgotten your name. But that fear, painful as it feels, is also part of the cleansing. It strips away illusions of control, forcing you to stand face to face with the truth that you were never steering this journey alone. The waiting season is the soul's classroom. It's where you learn the language of trust, not blind optimism, but a deeper kind of knowing that doesn't depend on evidence. It teaches you to distinguish between what your ego wants right now and what your higher self is preparing for later. Every human being must pass through it, because without that passage, faith would remain theoretical. We can read about surrender, talk about it, affirm it, but only through waiting do we embody it. Only there do we learn that the divine is not in a hurry, because eternity has no need to rush. When everything slows down, what's really happening is that the universe is redirecting your attention inward. You're being called to stop reaching outward for meaning and instead discover it within. The outer world pauses so that the inner one can unfold. What you interpret as stagnation is actually incubation, your consciousness gathering strength, clarity, and emotional resilience. The waiting season detoxifies your attachment to outcomes. It purifies desire until it becomes intention rather than need. It reveals the parts of you that still believe you're incomplete without the thing you're waiting for, and it lovingly dismantles that illusion. There's a hidden tenderness in this process. The universe never withholds out of cruelty. It waits because love must mature before it can sustain what it asks for. A dream given too early can overwhelm you. A relationship received before healing can repeat the same cycles. Success gained before inner balance can lead to self-destruction. So life in its mercy delays what you think you're ready for until your vibration matches the stability of what's coming. And though that refinement feels lonely, it is the loneliness of transformation, the chrysalis between who you were and who you're becoming. During this period, small moments matter more than you realize. The walk you take in silence, the breath you finally allow to deepen, the tears you stop hiding. These are not meaningless acts, they are rituals of rebirth. Each quiet moment strengthens the invisible structure of your soul. The human heart, when stretched by waiting, becomes capable of holding more compassion. It learns to feel beyond its own longing and to sense the rhythms of life moving in all directions. The more you stay present to that stillness, the more your perception refines, and you begin to notice subtle synchronicities. A phrase that answers a question you didn't speak aloud, a chance meeting that shifts your perspective, a sign that reminds you you're not alone. At some point, the frustration softens into humility. You stop demanding that life hurry. You begin to recognize that this slow unfolding has been protecting you all along. What you thought was delay was actually divine architecture building the foundation for the next chapter. The things you once begged to happen start to feel less urgent. You realize that if something hasn't arrived yet, it's because you're still in the sacred process of becoming ready to meet it. And strangely, that realization brings peace, the kind that no external achievement ever could. The waiting season also teaches discernment. You start to see what truly matters. Some relationships dissolve quietly, and instead of clinging, you allow them to go, understanding they served their purpose. Certain ambitions lose their shine, and you realize they belong to an older version of you. The stripping away is painful, but it's precise. Nothing that departs during this season is meant to return unchanged. The empty space it leaves behind isn't a void, it's a vessel for the new frequency you're becoming. Eventually, the stillness begins to break. Subtle shifts appear. Opportunities that feel aligned instead of forced. People whose energy mirrors your own growth. Intuitive nudges that lead you in new directions. The transition happens almost invisibly because you've changed so deeply that the external world now mirrors your internal evolution. The waiting ends not because time has passed, but because you've crossed an invisible threshold within yourself. You've reached vibrational coherence with the next version of your destiny. When the moment of arrival finally comes, it feels effortless, as if the thing you longed for had been circling you all along, waiting for you to notice that it was never far away. And when you look back, you understand why the silence lasted as long as it did. Every unanswered prayer, every slow chapter, every lonely night was doing something exact, building the faith, patience, and strength required to sustain what you were asking for. The waiting season wasn't an interruption of your life, it was your life, the part that shaped you into someone capable of genuine fulfillment. So if you find yourself in that quiet middle space now, not where you were, not yet where you're going, don't rush to escape it. Sit inside it with curiosity. Let it refine you. Let it show you how resilient, wise, and connected you already are. Because when the waiting season ends, and it always does, you'll realize it gave you something far greater than the thing you were waiting for. It gave you yourself. And once you've met that truest self, patient, grounded, surrendered, alive, you'll understand that divine timing never makes mistakes. It delivers exactly what you need, in the exact way you're prepared to receive it, at the precise moment your soul is ready to say, I am here. I am ready. I understand now why it took so long. There comes a moment in the journey when the soul stops reaching for explanations and begins to reach for stillness. That is the turning point, the sacred invitation from life itself to trust what cannot yet be seen. Every soul eventually faces this initiation, the moment when control dissolves, certainty disappears, and you are asked to walk forward, guided only by intuition, faith, and an unseen current that feels both terrifying and familiar. This is not the end of reason, it is the expansion of it, where intellect surrenders to intelligence far beyond the mind. To trust divine timing means to step into the rhythm of a larger consciousness that has always been guiding you, even when you thought you were lost. At first, this surrender feels unnatural. The ego resists because it survives on the illusion of control. It wants to map, measure, and predict. But the deeper layers of your being already know how to flow with what's unfolding. Your higher self is fluent in the language of divine order. It knows that the universe doesn't respond to impatience, it responds to alignment. Trusting the invisible is not about ignoring logic or denying action. It's about acting from a deeper intelligence that senses when to move and when to wait. It's a dialogue between your human self and your divine essence, a continuous conversation between your limited timeline and the timeless awareness watching over it. To live in trust is to remember that unseen hands are always shaping visible outcomes. It's to recognize that manifestation doesn't happen because you force it, but because you become a match for it. You don't chase the right path, you align with it, and then it reveals itself. You don't demand that things unfold, you allow them to, because you've realized that everything meant for you is magnetized not by your desperation, but by your frequency. The energy you carry, not the words you say, signals the universe. When you stop panicking about what isn't here yet, and instead cultivate peace with what is, you shift from resistance to resonance. And resonance is the true language of divine timing. This is what makes the mystical path both humbling and liberating. You learn to take inspired action, but without the anxiety of needing to control the outcome. You do your part. You plant the seed, water it, tend the soil, but you no longer dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You let the invisible forces handle the rest. The timing of its sprouting belongs to the intelligence of the cosmos. To trust that process is to say, I am no longer at war with time. I am aligned with it. That's what makes miracles feel effortless. They are simply the moments when the visible world finally catches up with what was already true in the invisible. There's a mysterious intelligence that choreographs your journey, one that sees all paths, all choices, and all possible futures at once. From that higher vantage, what looks like delay or detour to you may actually be precision. What seems like loss may be protection. What feels like rejection might be redirection. To trust divine timing is to live with that awareness, to hold a steady faith that the invisible sequence of your life is unfolding exactly as it must. It doesn't mean you stop feeling pain or uncertainty. It means that even in those feelings you recognize the hand of the sacred shaping you into who you need to be. Trusting the invisible also changes your relationship with desire. You stop seeing your desires as random wishes and begin to understand them as messages from your higher self, signals of what your soul is already aligned with in potential form. The longing you feel is not proof of lack. It's evidence of connection to something that already exists in the unseen realm. When you tune your energy to it, through gratitude, through presence, through inner stillness, it begins to move closer until it finally crystallizes into the material world. That's the alchemy of trust. Belief so steady it becomes a magnet for its own confirmation. Many people misunderstand surrender as passivity, but it's the opposite. It is an active state of awareness where you participate with the universe rather than against it. It's a rhythm, not a resignation, a way of dancing with reality instead of dragging it. When you surrender, you're not giving up, you're giving over, handing the steering wheel back to the divine navigator who's been there all along. You still take steps, but you stop forcing the direction. You move when you feel called, rest when the signs tell you to, and trust that both action and stillness serve the same purpose. You begin to understand that the universe doesn't reward struggle, it responds to surrender. The moment you stop grasping, what you were chasing starts coming toward you. But trusting the invisible requires courage, not the kind that roars, but the quiet kind that sits calmly in uncertainty. It's the courage to look at what isn't yet visible and still believe it's already forming. It's the courage to hold your vibrations steady when doubt whispers that nothing is happening. Every moment of uncertainty becomes a practice in alignment. Each time you choose faith over fear, you strengthen the bridge between your human self and your higher self. You become a co-creator with the divine instead of a reactor to circumstance. When you live this way, life stops being a sequence of random events and starts feeling like a dialogue with something vast and benevolent. Synchronicities become normal. Inner nudges become your compass. You start noticing that when something doesn't work out, something better soon reveals itself. And not because of luck, but because the timing was designed for your evolution. Even challenges begin to look different. You see them as sculptors refining your soul, preparing you for the next level of expression. You no longer ask, Why is this happening to me? But what is this preparing me for? That single shift in awareness transforms your entire relationship with existence. In truth, trusting divine timing is the most intimate act of love you can offer yourself. It means you stop living in resistance to your own destiny. It means you stop judging the present moment as inadequate. It means you finally accept that your path is intelligent, even when it feels chaotic. And once you embody that acceptance, peace begins to flow effortlessly through your days. You no longer wait for the universe to prove its reliability. You feel it moving through you, as you. The boundaries between your will and divine will dissolve, and what remains is harmony. And maybe that's the quiet secret behind every miracle. Not that the universe suddenly favors you, but that you finally trust it enough to let it. You begin to see that divine timing isn't something to believe in occasionally. It's a way of living. It's a sacred partnership with the invisible currents of life that have always been guiding you toward your highest expression. To trust those currents is to walk in alignment with the infinite. To trust them is to remember that you are not a fragment of creation. You are part of the creative force itself, moving through time in perfect rhythm, arriving exactly when and where you are meant to. When you reach the end of a long waiting season, when the lessons of surrender have softened the edges of your will, and life begins to move again, it doesn't explode into motion. It unfolds, quietly, like a dawn that doesn't ask for attention. You look around and realize that everything has changed, not because the world transformed overnight, but because you did. The silence you once feared has become the stillness that sustains you. The uncertainty that tormented you has turned into the faith that anchors you. The pain that felt meaningless now reveals itself as the most precise teacher you've ever had. This is the sacred symmetry of divine timing, the moment when the puzzle pieces begin to align and the invisible pattern that once felt cruel finally makes sense. What once seemed delayed was never delay. It was choreography. It was your higher self arranging circumstances so exact that only in hindsight can you grasp their perfection. You begin to see how every detour was a redirection, how every closed door was an initiation, how every heartbreak cracked open a doorway into deeper awareness. What looked like loss was actually calibration, the universe adjusting your frequency to match what you were asking for. And as you realize this, something profound shifts inside you. The need to control, to force, to rush begins to dissolve. You stop trying to bend life to your will and start listening for its rhythm. You start to live as if the entire cosmos were conspiring in your favor, because, at the deepest level, it always has been. The fear of being behind disappears because you finally understand you were never late for your destiny. You were simply moving at the pace required for your soul to unfold its potential. You start to see time itself differently, not as a straight line of moments you're racing through, but as a living field responding to your energy, a divine mirror reflecting your inner state back to you. That's when gratitude begins to rise, not as a reaction, but as a state of being. You look at the people who left, and you thank them for teaching you how to stand alone. You look at the failures, and you thank them for redirecting your ambition toward what truly matters. You look at the loneliness and you realize it gave you intimacy with your own soul. The timeline of your life, once filled with confusion, now glows with meaning. The ordinary moments become holy again. You walk slower, you listen deeper, you trust more easily, and something magical happens. Reality begins to mirror that trust. Opportunities appear without strain. The right people show up as if drawn by an invisible current. You start to realize that the more you align with peace, the more life aligns with you. The universe becomes a collaborator instead of a battlefield. There is no more chasing, only allowing. No more striving, only unfolding. You no longer ask when, you ask what is this moment teaching me now? The paradox of divine timing is that it was never outside of you. It was never a cosmic clock ticking in the sky. It was a reflection of your own readiness. The universe doesn't give you what you want when you want it. It gives you what you can hold when you're ready to hold it. Once that readiness arrives, everything begins to move in harmony. What you once called waiting was simply synchronization. The rhythm of your soul had to match the rhythm of the cosmos. When those two finally meet, destiny appears effortless. That's the hidden truth about trusting divine timing. It's not a belief, it's a frequency. It's not about hoping the universe will favor you someday. It's about embodying the state of being where favor already exists. It's living as if everything is happening for your evolution, even when it hurts. It's understanding that resistance delays and surrender accelerates. It's remembering that what is meant for you cannot pass you by, because it is coded into your soul's blueprint, waiting for your vibration to resonate with it. In this awareness, life becomes luminous again. You stop measuring progress in days or years and start feeling it in depth, in the expansion of your awareness, in the peace that arises for no reason, in the quiet certainty that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. The anxiety that used to drive you begins to fade, replaced by a deeper trust that doesn't need proof. You become the embodiment of alignment. You become a living demonstration of what happens when a human being stops fighting the flow of existence and begins to move with it. And in that space, that quiet, knowing space, the mind bows to the mystery. You no longer need answers, because you can feel the intelligence behind everything. You can sense the perfection even in imperfection, the divine order hidden inside apparent chaos. You see that you were never separate from that order. You are that order, experiencing itself through the illusion of time. The same consciousness that spins galaxies is the one breathing you right now. The same rhythm that turns seasons is the one orchestrating your path. When you realize this, fear dissolves. The question shifts from when will it happen to how can I stay open while it's happening? You begin to live not in resistance to time, but in reverence for it. You trust that the divine plan is unfolding with more intelligence than your mind could ever comprehend. You start to feel guided in every moment, not because you can predict what's next, but because you no longer need to. You simply know. You know that life is not happening to you, it's happening through you. You know that nothing has been wasted, not a single moment, not a single heartbreak, not a single delay. You know that your journey is sacred, that your timing is perfect, and that your becoming is the purpose itself. And as this realization settles deep into your soul, you look around, at the same sky, the same world, and it feels different. More alive, more precise, more miraculous. You finally understand that there was never anything to wait for. The divine timing was never about what was coming. It was about you remembering who you are while it came. Everything, from the smallest delay to the greatest blessing, was designed to awaken that knowing. And now that you've remembered, you can finally rest inside the rhythm of eternity, at peace with the unfolding, awake within the mystery, and aligned with the truth that has always been whispering beneath the surface of time. It's all meant for you. It always was.